You're watching The World. Welcome back. And now in Africa, across Africa, Nigeria's cargo tariff hike is sparking debates about regional competitiveness and economic impact. The increase from 7 naira to 20 naira per kilogram has freight forwarders worried about discouraging exports and inflating import costs, ultimately harming Nigerian businesses and consumers. While FAAN argues the hike will fund critical infrastructure upgrades, others question the timing and potential consequences for regional trade. As neighboring countries like Ghana and Benin Republic grapple with similar challenges, Nigeria's move has put the spotlight on Africa's aviation sector. Well, joining me now to talk on some of these issues is Frank Ogunojemite. Sorry if I murdered your name. He is the president of the African Association of Professional Freight Forwarders and Logistics of Nigeria. Good to have you join us from our Lagos studios, Mr. Frank. Now, how will Nigeria's cargo tariff hike impact regional trade agreements such as ECOWAS and affect intra-African trade?
Good evening and thanks for having me. Basically, it's a hike. Generally, when there's a hike in tariff, it's always have a negative effect on the business people. Now, especially what's happening presently with the fund, this is not what we're talking about. We think we should have an engagement with stakeholder before you hike in price. We have to look for, I'm going to answer it from the freight forwarder perspective. What I'm saying is that if you hike in price, this is going to affect both import and export to this country. And what the people import to this country is higher. At the end of the day, they will spike up like inflations. And you have to think about the per capita or the income powers of the people of the country. And not only that, there's a problem with national development as well. Because when the port is not competitive, definitely the business will have an options. What's going to be an options? It's either it's being diverted to other countries or is being diverted to sea. But the renewed agenda of the government is to make our port competitive. And Nigeria, as a hub for West Africa, we should be able to see the factors that will not hinder the ease of doing business. So at the end of the day, the trade facilitation that the government is clamoring for, because we have to make sure that our port is attractive. So the vessel can come in as well. So we should be able to grow our economy. Any country that do business without considering international parties, that's not a business. We have to look about trade facilitations. We have to look at how our country will be attractive. Those are the things. But if you remember last year, the Honorable Minister was saying that they will cut the port operation by 25%. But at the end of the day, this is what we are seeing. And don't forget, this has been one of the very horrible times for the freight forwarders in Nigeria. So those are the things we're talking that they should have a dialogue with us. They give us a chance for dialogue. So we have to make sure that we tell them some things they need to know about both import and exports.
Let's talk about, FAN more. So is the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria's tariff hike, is this a sign of a broader trend in Africa where governments are prioritizing revenue generation over trade facilitation?
Well, the hike from FAN is uncalled for. This is the first time we are experiencing this. If you know, for the past 47 years, we'll be having a male to be the MD of a FAN. But now that we're having a woman, we expect a open door policies. But to be honest with you, what is happening now is contrary to the agenda of federal government on ease of doing business and trade facilitations. And if this is continue or there's no any review on the hike, this will discourage the business of the international business. So most of this business will be diverted to other countries. And that's where we are saying, of course, they are planning to have a dialogue on Monday, and we are think that the government, the Honorable Minister, will have to see what they do to this. Because if this is continue, this will discourage business, and the investor will turn away from. How do you just increase a tariff is such without any
Now,
dialogues,
yes.
without any stakeholder inputs.
Right. Now, we're looking forward to that meeting on Monday, but how can, African countries like Nigeria balance their need for infrastructure development with the need to promote economic growth and competitiveness?
This is very easy. It's has to be a gradual process. You have to think of all the policies and infrastructure. Of course, infrastructure is very important, but we have to think of monetizations because the same cargo hike is being collected by both airline and cargo handlers. And now you are collecting on cargoes. That's becoming a monetization. That will not only discourage businesses, but it will discourage what's the agenda of federal government. And however, fund is collecting subvention from government and they generate money from different places. We do not say there should not be increment, but there must be a justifications for the increment. Of course, infrastructure development is very important, and that's what we are all looking for. But this should not be to detriment of his or her business, should not be a detriment to the trade facilitation. All this has to be considered.
Now,
the turnover is very important.
Yeah. So what role can regional organizations like the African Union or ECOWAS play in regulating airport tariffs and promoting harmonization across the continent?
Well, you see, it's very unfortunate at this time that if I, from my own perspective, or free for that perspective, the ECOWAS policy is not even being successful because the agenda or the vision of ECOWAS is a free trade and free movement of people. Tell me, try to go to Togo or Ghana, you see what you're going to face as an individual or as a traveler. Now talking about the cargoes itself. So to me, the African country need to come together sincerely and holistically to view genuinely what they want to triumph the Africa. If you consider the Africa Free Trade Agreement and the EU, you can't compare them together, to be sincere. But if you want Africa to grow, they need to they need to come together and engage stakeholders and sincerely look at the policies. Of course, CRFN was trying to standardize the prices. There are a lot of things. The legislative power that will be able to standardize price is very important. And a lot of macro factors have to be considered. We are talking about harmonizing prices. So it's not only harmonizing prices, but the other impediments that need to be addressed before we can achieve this. What are those impediments? Of course, infrastructure is very important, but we have to look at how the HS code of those goods and the effectiveness of those goods. Are we promoting the foreign product or indigenous products? Because what Africa Free Trade Agreement era is emphasized is the movement of the product producing within Africa. Now, and I've always been saying this, is the ECOWAS treaty policy successful before we are migrated to Africa Free Trade Agreement? All those things to be structured. It's not only about prices, it's about the mentality of the people and the responses of the leadership that govern those places. In a way, when a stakeholder cannot be engaged.
So I hear you on the AFTA, but finally, before I let you go, what are the implications? I want you to resound the implications of Nigeria's tariff hike for African airlines and the continent's aviation industry as a whole.
Well, it will be very sad if the Nigerians is not engaging stakeholder and they keep increasing. This will not only promote smuggling, but it will only promote the diversification of our cargos to other countries. And I'm telling you, we have to consider the impact that will feel on the citizens of this country, because if you are not looking at that one, that's going to be we end up to be in jeopardy. And at the end of the day, Nigeria will end up a dumping ground for other countries, because one way or the other, the cargos from that country will find themselves in this country when the needs arrive. So my advice is that the government should engage, they look at the review of the policies and the prices.
Thank you so much, Mr. Frank Ogunojemite. He is the president of the African... Okay, thank you. Sorry, I apologize again for murdering the name. He is the president of the Africa Association of Professor Freight Forwarders and Logistics of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us from our Lagos studios.